Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we welcome you once again on this beautiful evening of Ramadan, once again to the airwaves of Salam Media. This is In Conversation with myself, Inayat Wadi, and we trust and hope that you are enjoying the beauty, the blessings of this beautiful and this glorious month of Ramadan as we head into the final days, or in fact, just over a week away from the month of Ramadan. As we welcome our listeners, our viewers on the various platforms of Salam Media, just wonderful that you are able to join us. Now, clearly, this month of Ramadan has been quite a month where the world that has been focusing on what has been playing out in the Middle East. Now, if we take a look back, and for more than 4 decades, we've seen this antagonism between the United States of America, Israel, and Iran. And obviously, this has been a defining moment, particularly when one looks at global politics. And we've seen it since the revolution in 1979. The hostility towards Iran has been so deeply embedded. And is this about an ideological identity, or is there a lot more? But the most important issue is what impact is this having on the Muslim world? We see the impact already in the Middle East, the striking of American bases, and also taking a look at the link between Iran, Palestine, the United States of America, Israel, and also the Gulf states. And we're going to break and unpack all of this with my two guests this evening. And joining us out of the United States of America is the always willing and alhamdulillah, never ever letting us down. It's Salam Media, Professor Nidal Sakr, and also we've got Sister Lina Abojaradeh joining us out of Jordan this evening. So as we welcome both our guests this evening onto the screen, I see Prof. Nidal is on already. Prof. Nidal, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem to you and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Ramadan Kareem to you and to the audience.
Yes, and out of Amman in Jordan, Sister Lina, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and Ramadan Kareem to you as well. We trust and hope you're having a wonderful Ramadan, inshallah.
Wa alaikum assalam. Likewise to you, to Professor Nidal, and to all the viewers as well.
Jazakallah khair. Prof. Nidal, I know I'm going to start off with you because, you always look at things very, very strategically. And my question to you at the outset is, are we surprised at what has been playing out in the Middle East, the strike by Israel and America on Iran, and obviously the consequences that have been flowing through to the rest of the Middle East, and particularly the countries that have been aligned to the United States of America, those that have got bases and have relied on America for protection?
Jazakallah khair, brother, for the intro, and I apologize for not having the Palestinian Kofiyah today, but inshallah we'll have it inshallah together as we enter Al-Aqsa. No, as a Muslim, alhamdulillah, we're never surprised. We have yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in the good that He destines for this ummah. Our job is to be steadfast, sincere, and dedicated, and to seek the wisdom to understand all that's happening. Alhamdulillah, everything that happened in our lifetime and in what we've witnessed since October 7 in particular, it's full of wisdoms, it's full of assurances, it's full of fulfillment of Allah's promises and pledges in the Quran, in Surah Al-Isra, and other citations. So, no, we're not surprised. Alhamdulillah, I see it from different perspective. I see it from the strategic long-term implications of all that's happening. What's happening is no short of miracle. There have been very devious people that have been spreading mayhem, killing, destruction, and suffering upon the world population at large for so many years. And they seem to be formidable at some point, and they thought, as the Quran says, حسب ألا يقدر عليه أحد. They thought that they're immune and they're overcoming and invincible. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought them to where they need to be for the job to be done and done properly and correctly. And to exact his wisdom on them and fulfill the promise that um, um, all the tyrants, that they will meet their fate by Allah revealing His might upon them and take justice back to all the oppressed. And in this case, of course, we have Gaza and we have the Muslims all over the world, and even people who are not even Muslims in Venezuela and other places that have been persecuted and suffering from the American hegemony and from the Israeli conspiring against them, against their countries. So yes, it's a moving situation. We're still in the early phase of it. We're about 8 days in it, or 10 days maybe. But the direction that's been going, no matter how painful, no matter how graphic, no matter how much suffering, that we feel that's been inflicted on humans and on children and on schools and on the brothers and sisters in Iran and some other places. We've been going through this for over 2 years in Gaza and some other places in Sudan and others. But inshallah, it's all coming to, I see the light at the end of the tunnel very clearly. And inshallah, it won't be much longer before things turn around and justice start taking its course.
Jazakallah for that, Professor Nidal. And Sister Lina, just looking at it from your perspective now, you are in Jordan and you are in a country that has been impacted as well, hosting one of the bases of the United States of America. What are some of your thoughts and what are some of the sentiments that are being expressed in your part of the world?
It's very interesting here in Jordan to see the different reactions from Palestinian activists, from the Jordanian people, from the government. There are a lot of my friends personally who are activists for Palestine, but who, for example, were very sympathetic to the Syrian cause. And so they have preconceived notions and sentiments towards Iran based on its participation in what happened to Syria. You have people who are coming from, this ideological place of Iran equals Shia, therefore they're evil and they're bad, even though they're very pro-Palestinian. You have people who are sympathetic with Iran because it's anti-Western. So it's interesting to see all of these different mindsets and views come out. And like we said, that Gaza is al-Kashifa, it exposed so many people and so many governments. I think also this war on Iran exposes a lot. We often hear sirens in Jordan, and I think the people of Jordan are kind of frozen. They're not sure if a full-scale war is going to break out. And I don't think they're prepared for a full-scale war to come out. This is, we're a people that aren't used to conflict. We're not like the people of Gaza, the people of Lebanon, the people of Syria. Jordan has pretty much been in the pocket, so to speak, because we have the largest border with occupied Palestine. And so it's in the interest of the US and Israel to ensure that Jordan is always safe and is always calm. And I think what's happening might facilitate something else. And I can see that the majority actually is going against the government narrative, which is kind of pushing everyone to see Iran as this terrorist ultimate evil in the region. And I think people are looking past that. But I just kind of wanted to explain the different views that are coming out of Jordan and probably the region as of now.
Well, interesting, because these views, Sister Lina, are being expressed right across the world as well, not only in Jordan as well. And I think Prof. Nidal, Sister Lina speaks about the ideological divide. And I think this is important to understand because this seems to be the debating point in the Muslim world. We see the debating point also in South Africa as well, amongst many Muslims, amongst the scholarly fraternity as well, looking at this ideological divide. And especially the Sunni Shia Muslim divide. We know that there are many reasons. Sister Lina alluded to Iran and its involvement in Syria as well. So people haven't forgotten what has taken place in Syria. But, does this actually matter as far as this war is concerned?
Brother, let's be clear about one thing. The most sworn enemy to humanity and to Muslims in particular, to the Muslim Ummah, is the Zionist coalition, which is what I call it here, actually the United States of Israel. And that includes, of course, the USA, Israel, and their European backers, and now actually India and others, right? Okay, now, as Muslims, we should not be confused dealing with these situations because we have precedents in the Islamic history and experiences that show us the light into all of this. At the most challenging time during the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Ghazwat al-Ahzab, in the trench, when Muslims were like at most desperate time, Surah al-Rum was revealed, and it was talking about the Persians and the Romans, or the Romans, and they were both enemies of Muslims. But at the time, the Persians were more sworn enemy to Muslims, more fierce enemy to Muslims than the Romans. And the Quran said, غلبت الروم في أدنى الأرض وهم من بعد غلبتهم سيغلبون في بضع سنين لله الأمر من قبل ومن بعد ويومئذ يفرح المؤمنون بنصر الله. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called the victory of the less evil, the lesser enemy over the greater enemy as a glad tiding to Muslims that would should be something to celebrate and to bring joy to them. So if we apply this example to the case of what we're having right now, United States of Israel, and by the way, I forgot when I say the United States of Israel, it's actually the Arab regimes that are serving and protecting Israel, including, Jordan, the Gulf countries, and wherever it is. So now we're having a war between two camps, a camp that actually stood for the Muslims' primary cause in Gaza and Palestine and so forth, which is Iran. And even before Iran, it was Iraq, which was Iran's most sworn enemy. But nonetheless, so we have a side who is a Muslim side. Nobody says that Shia is kafir, right? So we have a Muslim side that stood for Palestine, is paying the price for the support of Palestine. This war right now is actually punishment for Iran for standing by Gaza. So let's not have any confusion over this. The countries that are siding against or fighting Iran are the countries that were involved in that corridor, the land corridor, providing supplies and weapons and food to the Israelis, not to mention, of course, Israel and the United States on the other side and Europe. So there is no confusion about this on who is fighting who and with which side do we stand or support. Anybody who's confused about this, they really need to look into their faith, number one, into their Islam, because this is very clear. They need to look into like their sanity, because this is completely unintelligent. Like somebody has to be real, like mentally deficient to even like have these arguments at this time of war. Like I don't see like how people can be confused about this. Like on what basis? On the basis of Sharia and or the Islamic opinion on this? This is a clear cut. On the basis of common sense, it's a clear cut. On the basis of politics and conventional wisdom, strategy, and so forth, it's a clear cut. So anybody who brings the justification to, yes, the blood of our brothers in Syria, there's no question about it. I mean, let's not forget that, for example, like Hamas actually split with the Syrian regime over this, and of course they oppose the bloodshed in Syria by the Iranians and the Russians and so forth. There's no question about it, because the sanctity of the blood, human blood in general and Muslim blood in particular, is the utmost consideration or the utmost standard. But given the situation that we have right now, none of these arguments is really relevant. And so to side with the aggressors, to side with the enemies, side with the genociders, to side with the ones who are until today, like very openly declaring the greater Israel project and so forth. I don't see the point where, like, what is the argument here? No, this is a situation where like you either like take a clear-cut stand of all what's happening, or you just basically like do not belong to this ummah. I understand there are some considerations in terms of what's happening targeting Gulf countries and so forth. They're targeting U.S.-Israeli occupied bases that they gave up sovereignty. Like these countries, they already gave up sovereignty over these bases to the Israelis and to the Americans. And anybody who complains about targeting those bases is somebody like who really lost his mind.
Well, certainly. And also, I think, Sister Lina, from what Prof. Nidal is saying, and we're talking about, obviously the Greater Israeli Project, but we find that from the Muslim world as well, there seems to be a lot of pressure, and they talk about the Greater Iranian Project. And, what you mentioned, this war actually exposes a lot, because what we've seen, the narrative around the world, and particularly coming from Iran, that it has consistently positioned itself as a state that actually stands for any pressure on the Muslim world and on Islamic countries.
Definitely. So, for example, my own parents were susceptible to this type of propaganda. It's been regurgitated so much, this Iranian threat that Iranian wants to take over all Sunni lands and convert everyone to Shiaism. It sounds comical to people who are aware, but a lot of people, just based on repetitive exposure from over 2 decades, like my parents were part of the Kuwaiti Gulf War. They were in Kuwait when Iraq went into Kuwait, and so and then before that there was Iran-Iraqi war. So there has been a lot of wars in the region that has kind of perpetuated this mindset, and the governments, of course, love to have a boogeyman in the area. They love to have someone to kind of shift all of the attention, someone that kind of is a threat to security and safety, which kind of makes the people be quiet and accept all of the economic and all of the political inactions of their governments. So I definitely understand a little bit where these people are coming from. But of course, as Muslims, we need to be more aware. We need to really have our values in check. There were 26 scholars of the Ummah who released a statement that very clearly states anyone participating in this war against Iran, even if it's within these Gulf countries, this is prohibited. This is a war against Islam. Among them is Al-Hassan al-Diddu, who I absolutely love, and he has been very strong with his stance on Gaza. And so we have our scholars very clearly mentioning what our stance as Muslims should be. But what people need to understand, it's been a cycle of propaganda that has been ingrained since I was a child. I have always been hearing that Iran is bad, Iran is a threat, they're not like us, they are the other. And of course, this is perpetuated. This is what the Western imperialist system wants us to do. They view us as the other, and they want us to have divides among ourselves, and to have this idea of you're superior because you believe this, and they're inferior because they don't believe the same way as you. And as Muslims, we need to rise up from this mindset, of course.
Well, I think, Prof. Nidal, we've obviously had the same mindset here in South Africa as well, where we've seen certain scholars talk about this war being kufr versus kufr, and it should be of no business to anyone who is a Sunni Muslim. But again, one can look at it again, from a Sharia perspective, but also one looks at the political landscape, because these latest developments in the Middle East obviously has created a very, very different, or a completely different political landscape, considering, Iran obviously has not stood back. And it's not only about US and America, but it's about the assets in the Middle East. And they've targeted assets right across the entire Gulf.
Yes, brother. Let's first of all, like this whole thing about Iranian being a threat or enemy of Muslims, and so forth. Let's just remember where it came back, where it came from. When they had the Iran Revolution against dictator, which was Shah at the time, and of course all the Arab countries are ruled by dictators. So the biggest fear they had at the time, for all of us that were like, let's say, aware of what's happening, is the exporting revolution. That's exactly the point why they considered Iran as an enemy, and we saw how much money Saudi Arabia in particular start funding Islamic centers and so forth to try to divide, to create the divide and the wedge between Sunni and Shia, and then became the fitna that it is today. Now, in terms of like, we're talking about like targeting, quote unquote, like Gulf countries. just like Sister Lina said that Gaza is the kashifa, Gaza is basically the one that exposed everybody. And we saw that actually all the ones who are targeted, or the countries that are targeted, that are either part of the Abrahamic Accord being outpost to the Zionist project in the area, like UAE, Bahrain, and so forth, or been complicit in the war on Gaza. I mean, you're talking about like the war on Gaza. Let's just remember that Hamas was the last defense line of this ummah. I mean, now that we see like what the Americans are saying and admitting and talking about a greater Israel and so forth, and that's exactly what Hamas has been always warning, that this is the project and we need all to stand united and we need to fend off like this project and so forth. And they all like jumped on the bandwagon, declaring Hamas terrorists or treating Hamas as terrorists and joining into the war on Gaza. Everybody I mean, even Qatar was not part of the war on Gaza, but Qatar also as a mediator was not really the best mediator needed, like not the most effective and so forth. I mean, we see eventually the resolution that they came up with this Trump peace board of peace, and how it basically continued the genocide, but under a new peace banner. So like, all of the parties that are being targeted right now, they've been effectively Israeli outposts against the Ummah and to further the Greater Israel project. So, for somebody to fight that project, whoever that might be, it can be China, it can be Russia, it can be anything. Anybody who fights against our enemy is not our enemy. I mean, that's by default. Let alone that this party is a Muslim party, you know. I just don't see where like what the argument is. Right now we have aggression against Iran. Iran was not the one to attack, and Iran has been extremely careful and upfront, saying that if we are attacked, we're going to attack the bases of the U.S. bases and interests in the region. And that's what they've been doing. So I don't know what's the point. Like, I mean, Iran is a country that's first of all that goes back thousands of years in history in terms of culture. Iran has been at war since the revolution, since 1979. The U.S. declared basically war, and sanctions is an act of war that has been relentless for all of those years. The Iranian people suffered greatly because of this, and Iran is just fighting back. So what else do they expect? Do you expect from them? Alhamdulillah, that Allah gave them strength and resources and wisdom to be able to, build something that they can fight back. Unlike all other Arab countries that basically they just let the Americans come and occupy their land for free and pay them for that. And there is nobody that expressed this better than basically the Saudis and the Emiratis when they said that, for example, like, we paid the Americans to protect us, and now we end up like paying to protect Americans. The same thing, of course, the Habtour, Khalaf al-Habtour from UAE, who has a very strong business ties with Israel. Criticism of the American administration and how they basically sold out all of their allies and the money and the investments and all of the stuff to just to support Israel and to wage a war on behalf of Israel. This is amazing because it's, first of all, it's a wake-up call to all of those countries that who the enemy is, and hopefully like this can start like, kind of like reconsider their positions and look at Palestine and Hamas and all of these like resistance movements as basically the defense line of the Ummah, that they owe them apology and to shift from being sellouts to the Zionist Greater Israel project. To align with the people, their own people, actually, their own populations that stand for Palestine as their primary cause.
Yes, and also I think, Cecilina, the mere fact that, we've got two lunatics in the form of Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, and yet there is just so much, and I'm trying to reconcile, the confidence that the Arab world has in both Netanyahu and Donald Trump. One looking at one as a protector, the other one normalizing a relationship with an aggressor. And yet, these are individuals and these are countries that have a history and that have virtually destroyed Palestine, the Palestinian cause as well. But again, I'm trying to understand the wisdom and the thinking behind having so much confidence in people like Netanyahu, in people like Donald Trump. Yet they found out very, very hard, actually. And I think the entire Arab world and the Gulf region has actually found out, as Professor Nidal has mentioned, that America, despite the trillions that they've spent over the years, despite the bases, they haven't been there to protect them, because Trump has made it very, very clear that his priority is the protection of Israel.
I think it breaks into several reasons. I think as Arabs, we have an inferiority complex, and it's been embedded in us to believe that the US is the greatest country in the world, that they will be the protectors, that collaborating with them ensures our safety. Like the UAE and Dubai, like for example, Dubai has marketed itself as a haven, a very safe place for anyone to come and make their investments. And of course, we know that a lot of that is money laundering and a lot of illegal types of funds that are going into Dubai. Now Dubai's security is completely shaken. And this means millions, maybe billions of dollars worth of investments being pulled. And so I think it's a lesson to these Arab countries that no matter how much you normalize with them, no matter how much you try to, serve these masters, they will never see you as equal. They will never actually treat you with the respect and the rights that you are aspiring to earn. And that's why as Muslims, we need to, this is a red line. This is a war between Christo-Zionist empire versus the Islamic Ummah. And that's why we really need to unite. For me, just the fact that Iran is showing that a Muslim country can stand against the US and survive. So far it is surviving, and we hope that, it will eventually be victorious. This is breaking these preconceptions that we are weak and they are strong. That the U.S. is the biggest and strongest empire in the world. It's it's impossible to defeat them. Trump continues to say we are victorious. We're victorious. Iran's missiles defenses are completely destroyed, but Iran is still striking Israel on a daily basis, and so he has no idea what he's gotten himself into. And it's kind of comical to see the type of things that he says every day being disproven on a daily basis. The fact that Iran said that anyone who expels their Israeli or US ambassadors can freely, use the Strait of Hormuz, for example. This is such a position of strength. And I think that's, hopefully it will be an inspiration to young Muslims everywhere that no, we can be victorious. We don't need to, be slaves to this Western imperialistic system.
Yes, Prof, you've always said that Gaza will change the world. And obviously Gaza will determine the new world order. Is there a link between what is happening with Iran at this point in time? Because we've heard many analysts, we've seen many a report talk about a new world order, and particularly after the bitter and the harsh lessons that both the United States of America and Israel, and also the other parts of the Middle East are actually learning as a result of what is playing out in front of us.
This is definitely a turning point in our history, where American hegemony is basically shooting itself on the foot and becoming like a joke in front of the whole world. After what they did to Venezuela and snatching the Venezuela president, and Trump basically is somebody who has no credentials. I've always spoke about him, that he's really like worthless person even talk about, but the fact that he's in the White House, that's why he gets mentioned. America right now is ruled by a bunch of losers, and that's not just like an insult. It is the fact. His history, everything he touches is just goes to waste. Whether it's his personal life, whether his history in ruling America, his administration, and so forth. But subhanallah, Allah, like yumli lil zalim, when somebody like thinks that they are more powerful than Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like gives them the chance to even go further before like he decides to bring their end. And that's the story of America today. Is basically the guy, he came from bullying the world for the first year, and Europe and the NATO, and taking over Greenland and Panama and the whole thing. And he thought that he is the God on earth, only to have his arrogance lead him to fight against Iran. And anybody who knows anything about Iran is battle hardened for like almost 49, 50 years. Like those people like surviving on nothing, and alhamdulillah, they were able to build like a super regional superpower, no matter what. But if you look at the map of the world, where you have like China and their aspirations and ambitions, you have Russia on the other hand, you have the Brexit. The guy completely destroyed the NATO, and this coalition that we saw in the Iraq war does not exist anymore, which that's why it makes his war against Iran even even more of a failure. And at the same time, we see the division within the American society and their lack of support of the war or opposition to the war, and how, alhamdulillah, I still insist that Gaza is actually what defeated Biden and the Democrats in the election, regardless that Trump won or it was a factor for Trump winning. But I still say that, inshallah, Gaza is going to be determining. We saw it in Zohran Mamdani, we saw it in others. It's determining the turn of the tide here in the US, and we're facing upcoming midterm elections in November. And I trust that to be aligned with Israel in any way, shape, or form is going to be a curse against any candidate who's aligned with AIPAC or the Israeli support and so forth. And I trust that, inshallah, 2028 also and Gaza, by the way, takes big credit of this. I mean, Democrats right now acknowledging that the war on Gaza has been the reason for the Democratic Party defeat. We're going to see it again, inshallah, in 2026, not in much more profound way. And in 2028, Gaza, yes, will decide who's going to be the next president in 2028. That's as far as America was happening in America. I believe that the same thing is going to be happening in European countries right now, with all the crackdown on the Protestants and so forth, and the persistent Palestinian Free Palestine movement everywhere. We saw actually the Chinese, their statements clearly about Gaza, about Israel, about the war on Iran. And of course, China is benefiting greatly from this war. So is Russia, which is fine. China has been prominent in terms of opposing the Gaza war, opposing the war on Iran. So the whole world is shifting. When we say New World Order, I'm a little bit skeptical, because that world order has always marginalized us and never gave us any consideration as any significant players, just like as subservient nations and countries going through whatever that others plan for us. I trust actually that the new order that's taking place and emerging, Gaza is going to be at the center, front and center in that. And I believe that free Palestine from the river to the sea, inshallah, now is closer than any other time before.
Inshallah. I mean, Sister Lina, also, I think, what is important, and one can take many lessons and look at the similarity between what Iran is presenting at this point in time, a revolutionary spirit, the same as the Palestinian resistance, and whether we're talking about Hamas, whether we're talking about Islamic Jihad as well, they've shown that resilience, they've shown that revolutionary spirit versus the subservient slave spirit that we've seen with many other parts of the Muslim world, particularly with regard to the Gulf countries as well. And again, one can take a lot of inspiration from their bravery, how patriotic they are, and in defending themselves, in defending their people, in defending their land. And we've seen this with the Palestinians, and that's been going on for well over 70 years now. And I'm sure that is right up in the forefront of every Palestinian's mind as well.
For sure. I believe that us witnessing the genocide in Gaza and the response of the Gazan people, their patience, their faith, even the resistance, what they had to endure, really, I think it shifted the mindset of a lot of Muslims in the region. And I think it's preparing us. Like, I feel like this is a school in a sense, and our graduation will be the liberation of not only Palestine, but the entire region. And so, I see a lot of people are not as afraid as they used to be. They're not as attached to dunya or to their, their daily lives, their fear on their families and their children as much as I think they were before Gaza. And for that, we'll be forever grateful. It's preparing us for something greater. It's preparing us. Of course, liberation isn't going to come easy. It's going to come with very high costs and very hard times. But I think just seeing them, their model of patience and faith, is definitely something that has inspired us and has prepared us. We know what's the absolute worst that can happen. And even if a fully fledged war doesn't break out in the region, the economic, the economic circumstances and consequences that are going to arise, they're going to be very hard on the people in the region. The increase of poverty, the disappearance of, the middle class. This is all something that the Arab people are going to face. But this will all, inshallah, lead up to, that actual breaking point where the Arab people will finally say that enough is enough, and that we don't have anything to lose, and it's time to actually, fight for freedom, actual real freedom, and not just being subservient to the West.
Yes, interesting. Professor Nidal, Lina speaks about a breaking point and looking at the Arab world and the Arab people. Are they being prepared for something greater after witnessing what they are witnessing right now?
Well, brother, my experience with the Arab people, having lived in Jordan or grew up in Jordan and having gone back for the Arab Spring and taken a part in what's happening in Egypt, I cannot speak for that. I mean, I don't want to be discouraging, but I'm hopeful that like they have some pride, some dignity, some whatever you call it. Like, it like just like the sister said, and I go back again to Gaza is the kashif. Gaza is basically the one that exposed everything. Like, who could ever believe that millions, I don't know how many millions Arabs now, because like the numbers do not matter anymore. All of these millions like witnessing what's happening to Gaza, and we still have all of these Israeli agents in the capitals like running their countries. I just don't understand. You're having like this corridor. Like, I mean, what's that? I mean, like forget about Deen, forget about Islam, forget about anything. Something called self-respect, something called dignity, something called pride, something called being human, worthy human. And this happens. Let's not even like forget other side of the picture. As what's happening right now in Gaza and what's happening in Iran, don't forget that the same countries that are conspiring against Iran, that conspired against Gaza and so forth, are still pushing for designation of Muslim Brotherhood in Sudan as terrorist organization after Egypt, after Jordan. So let's not forget the other side of the picture, that those people are Zionists just as Netanyahu is, if not even more Zionist. And, yes, they're Muhammad and Abdullah and bin such and bin such. Those people, like, until this point, they are part of the aggression against the Muslim Ummah. They are part of the greater Israel project, regardless of anything else. America turned their backs, Americans turned their backs on them. That doesn't make them like in any way exalt them from all the crimes that they have committed against the Ummah, against Gaza, against their own people. They are still Zionist spearheads in our region, and they are still the primary enemy against their own people. So, I mean, right now we're focused on the quote unquote on the greater enemy, which is the Israeli-American aggression against Iran. But, not for a second, we should forget that those people are not much different than those, the American-Israeli enemies. And we have to be like vigilant about it, because guess what? the one who is shooting the Iranian missiles going into Israel is Jordan. And having these missiles falling on top of the Jordanians and causing injuries to the Jordanian people and threatening the lives of Jordanians in defense of Israel. So I mean, it cannot be any more clear than this. So let's not forget that these are all, one way or another, they're all the same camp. If the people are not going to wake up, Alhamdulillah, Gaza did not wait I mean, it's called on the Muslim people to rise up for their Palestine, for Gaza, and for their pride and for religion. And, many people took to the streets and so forth. I still consider it to be, not enough. Jordan, by the way, they did a great job in their protest. So I'm not discounting that. But what I'm saying, you always have a challenge that you have to rise up to. And no matter how much we put into it, we're supposed to effect change. We're supposed to bring change, because if we don't bring change, we haven't done our jobs. Now it's a good opportunity, because the backer of these dictators are being humiliated and are being defeated. The Greater Israel Project is being basically crushed. America is starting to be like a joke for the whole world, and the whole fear and intimidation of America is going down the drain. So if that does not inspire Muslims to take part and to at least stand for their causes, just like Iranians are, I don't know what would.
Yes, and also I think, Sister Lina, looking at the greater implications for Palestine, for Gaza in particular, and considering what we see and the retaliation of Iran, and there is no doubt that they are hitting American assets very, very hard. They are hitting Israel very, very hard. And, with much fanfare, Trump, the self-declared emperor of the Board of Peace, and we had many countries that actually clamored, many individuals that wanted to be part and parcel of this Board of Peace. And with this humiliation that Donald Trump is taking, again, trying to understand how real is this idea of the Board of Peace, whether it's actually going to even materialize.
Look, I don't know. I can't tell the future. I don't know what's in store in terms of the Board of Peace. But if you actually read about the actual legalities of the Board of Peace, it actually gives Trump power even when he's not the president of the United States. It gives him access to military troops. It gives him access to funds from members of the Board of Peace. It's very dangerous implications if it were actually to be implemented and to go on. And I think it's something people are overlooking, the danger that it can pose to the entire world, not just to a certain region. But I think I want to go back to the point that Professor Nidal was mentioning about the Arab people and the people in the region. And I think this time I'm more optimistic than him. He's usually the more optimistic person, but we have many hadith from the Prophet that really mentions that there will always be good in Sham, which is, Jordan, Palestine, Syria. And this is a reason why I don't ever consider returning back to the US or moving away from Jordan, because I want to be a part of that good once it actually culminizes and once that liberation of Palestine comes through. And it's very frustrating to see, the state of weakness that we are in. I actually made a video about us being human shields, like us as Arabs, we are being used as human shields by the U.S. In this war against Iran, and it's comical, but it's tragic at the same time that we are allowing ourselves to do that. But I think this awakens. If people were on the fence, not sure really where they stand in this region, I think that this war really showed which side they should be loyal to. It showed, it just showed everything. How there's no such thing as an independent Arab state. None of us are independent. We are all, in a sense, colonized, a soft colonization by the West. And I think slowly, I'm sure there's a wisdom that that Allah has in prolonging, the awareness of the Arab people. And I do believe that there will be a breaking point at some point, and that there is good. I have many friends who are imprisoned here in Jordan. just for simply standing by Iran in this war, for saying certain things. And so there's good. The cost of being good in these areas is very high. But I am like optimistic. You know, and as we said, 2027 is very near. So this mindset shift is happening now.
Well, I must say, I did see that video you put out on Instagram on being used as human shield, actually. And I must say, you say it's comical, but it makes a lot of sense, Lina, and very, very interesting. But I think let's just get back to Professor Nidal. Professor Nidal, I think what is also important, and again, we see this optimism coming through from Lina in the statement that she's made, 2027, and just looking at it from a Palestinian perspective and for the cause, for the liberation of Palestine as well, in terms of what is playing out right now. How is this going to actually, in your analysis, how is this going to assist the Palestinians? Because we see at this point in time, obviously, Gaza still remaining the open air prison that it is. We still see a lot taking place in the West Bank. We've heard about Masjid al-Aqsa that has been closed in the last few days as well. How is this actually playing out as far as Palestine and the liberation of Palestine is concerned?
The liberation of Palestine is a matter of yaqeen for us. It's not a matter of just hope and wish. It's something that we are told, and we are told actually is explicitly how it's going to happen. So when I was in Tahrir Square and the regime fell and so forth, and everyone's celebrating and so forth, and they asked me, actually, they came up to me, brothers right now in jail. They said, you're not Egyptian. What are you doing here? I said, because the way to Palestine is from Cairo. And when I was saying this, I knew that it was not true. Just because the hadith that said, La tuqatilu Yahud, that you want, like the liberation of Palestine is going to come from East Jordan. So I know that for a fact. But he wanted to give them some reason to keep going. And of course, we saw eventually what happened to Egypt. But the Egyptian people, they in my opinion, they did, at least many of them did their part. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will was to go into what it went to. It's not over by any means. We're still going to have Arab Spring. Inshallah, it's still going to have free Egypt, and we're still going to have, inshallah, freedom in all the Muslim countries. So as I look at the situation, and let's say the people of Jordan, given the weakness that we have today in the Ummah and in that part of the world, we cannot forget Al-Jazi, and we cannot forget all of those heroes from Jordan, who actually is Jordanian, many of them, that during Gaza, they took matters with their hands and they inflicted some casualties on the Israeli side. So, no, I mean, when I lived in Jordan, I know the nature of the Jordanian people. And when I say Jordanian, of course, the mixed Jordanian-Palestinian thing that happened over the years. But nonetheless, that's no excuse. They still can do more. We still want them to do more. I went to school with this guy who's their dictator. And I knew his father, I knew his family, I knew his uncle. I used to meet with them. And, if we're talking about Trump here, that's even worse example over there. You're talking about a country that Jordan, we always use the word neshama, which is people who have honor and who have pride and who have, those original Arab traits of generosity and standing for justice and, helping the weak and the oppressed and so forth. That's Jordanians are known for that, But when we see how they're being really trashed by, some just loser, that's just very hard to swallow. So I hope that, with what's happening and the break in the dam that we're seeing right now, the humiliation of this U.S. quote-unquote superpower, and how Israel is being trashed into parking lot, just like we see in Gaza. That's what the Iranians are doing right now to Israel. And that's actually what Americans say in the streets or even in the media, that Israel is being Gazified. So I hope that gives them some sort of pride, okay, do your part. We only got one life to live, so let's at least live it in pride and freedom. I'm standing for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Sister Lina, we've heard Donald Trump talk about, preparing for this war to run over the next few weeks or possibly even months. Allah alone knows whether that will happen or not. But as this progresses, clearly it is creating a lot of difficulties, it's creating a lot of hardship. You spoke about the economic consequences, you spoke about the Strait of Hormuz. We know what impact this is going to have on the global economy as well. And as the situation progresses, looking at people on the ground, and particularly the Arab people on the ground, the disconnect, is just going to increase the disconnect between the people on the ground and the leadership. Is this going to widen that gap?
I mean, Allahu A'lam. We do know that hardship builds strong men. And I think that as a people that haven't really gone through war or any type of similar military hardships here in Jordan, one could argue that that type of hardship would strengthen them, strengthen their resolve, their iman, make them disconnect a little bit from this worldly life. And I think the more spiritually connected, the more connected you are with your faith, the more you would want to build that real, genuine ummah, a connected ummah built on, shared values, obviously against the West, because the West wants to destroy. Basically, it's a war against Islam, to eradicate Islam and eradicate Muslims, and that's what I really believe, that this entire attack on Iran is just about Islam. And we've heard Naftali Bennett talking about Turkey being the new Iran, and so if they finish with Iran, they're going to go for Turkey. Their whole point is just to attack any strong Muslim country, and so hopefully, these circumstances will inspire us to, let go of all of these tribalistic and nationalistic identities that we hold on so dearly to, and unite as Muslims. There's a hadith or a saying, قوما أعزه الله بالإسلام. The Arabs are people that God lifted through Islam. Without Islam, we were scattered, fighting. We weren't the best of people. So what made us the best was actually our religion and our faith. And so that's what we really need to go back to in order to see the liberation of Palestine and the Ummah come to fruition. I think that's what it's about. It's not about having pride in our Arabness or our nationalities or our tribes. None of that matters. I think it's just uniting as Muslims.
Yes. Prof, for someone like yourself in the United States of America, and just to understand what is playing out in the United States of America, because we know that a large percentage of Americans have been anti what Donald Trump has actually gone, as far as the attack on Iran is concerned as well. And we know that there have been many other shenanigans that have been playing out, the Epstein files. There's been so much that is taking place in the United States of America. Looking at it internally, could this be Trump's destruction coming from within the United States of America as well? So basically, we're looking at two-pronged, where on the one hand, being humiliated by Iran and being humiliated internally as well.
Yes, brother. Here, like, we have turmoil. Literally, we have a turmoil here in America. First of all, Epstein files is still the primary chaos that we have here, like the crisis. And nobody is forgetting about this, and everybody draws the connection that this is distraction from Epstein files. But the interesting thing is, the more that distractions that Trump tries to create, actually, the more that people talk about Epstein files, and the more revelations come out, and the picture becomes even much more clearer. The landscape, the political landscape is shifting greatly. So a couple of days ago, there was like the most likely candidate on the Democratic Party for president in 2028 is the California governor, and he slammed actually Israel like very clearly, which came a shock. Supposedly he's the Democratic front runner for election, and he slammed Israel, and he slammed Israel connection to the war, and he blamed Israel on dragging us to the war, and he slammed the American administration and Mark Rubio's confession that attacked them because Israel was going to attack, and this kind of thing. So there is a major shift in the political landscape. It seems that, quote unquote, the anti-Zionist, anti-Israel is front and center. Trump base is I think of it in terms of two parts. Some part is people like who live in the big states, and they have some sort of awareness and they have some understanding of politics, and they've been like seasoned and engaged. And there is the vast majority of his base, the MAGA base. People are actually living in dumpsters. The white, I call them like white states with very sparse population, Montana, Oklahoma, this kind of thing. And those people, like they just for as far as I'm concerned, they're brain dead. And then you have the other base, other part of this base, which is the evangelicals and the newcons. These are the Christian Zionists and so forth. We've seen the interview about Tucker Carlson with Mike Huckabee, which is U.S. ambassador to Israel, and this really has been a major game changer, because it really exposed so many things that Americans didn't see before, and it came. I mean, Tucker Carlson is one of the major factors in Trump winning both presidencies, like 2016 and 2024. So there is major shift that's happening in the U.S. There's great opposition against the war. People, if actually, I would, my feeling is that people are rejoicing actually that Israel is being hit. American public, I'm just celebrating that. I follow this on daily basis. I feel like many Americans, they really don't want to see Trump winning this war. And that's what I'm talking about. Like you're talking about, like when we say most Americans oppose the war, actually most Americans are against Trump on this war, and they're not going to be real, like losing a night of sleep if America gets. I mean, many people are happy that America has been defeated, humiliated, and defeated. I'm not worried about Iran whatsoever. By the way, just like I said, they are battle hardened for 47 years. Time is on their side. America cannot sustain this war in any way, shape, or form. I mean, every single day, that's $1 billion cost to the Americans. Israel is, of course, like, we see on TV what's happening to Israel and being like turned into parking lot. So no, time is on our side, and maybe it's Allah's will that their defeat is going to be in the this theatric fashion that they brought upon themselves and upon the region and the world.
Well, certainly, and also I think, Sister Lina, many of us saying that all of this is playing out in the month of Ramadan, but again, one can take a lot of heart and one can take a lot of comfort when one looks at the history of Islam. And some of the most defining moments in the history of Islam, the Battle of Badr, had taken place in the month of Ramadan as well, and that obviously had major consequences and changes in the entire world. And once again, I think, and you are obviously very positive, so is Professor Nidal as well, where one can actually utilize this month of Ramadan to inspire us, to inspire the Ummah, and to take lessons from what we see playing right in front of our very eyes. But again, as an Ummah as well, because Ramadan, we always talk of Ramadan being the month of the Quran, the month of the message of the Quran, the month of unity as well. And again, to unite a Muslim Ummah and to raise this Ummah to greater heights. So I'm sure, it is taking place in the month of Ramadan, but this month of Ramadan could be utilized for that very purpose.
I love that you mentioned the Battle of Badr. What a beautiful example. And I think, like, when have we seen missiles being fired on Israel, on the terrorist entity that is Israel? This isn't something that we've ever seen before, except, of course, the last aggression on Iran. Of course, it's something that brings hope. It brings us, cause to feel that we can be strong and that change is going to come. And I think as Muslims, each Muslim should be trying to see what they can do from where they stand. And I always tell this to my younger siblings: if you can't, have discipline in your prayers, for example, how are you going to have discipline to be liberators of Palestine? So I think each person at least should start with themselves. Ensure that your faith is on the right track, that you're a really good and strong Muslim, and then of course continuing to use social media as a voice, as a collective voice. I mean, we saw the power of social media in the massacre against Gaza, and the mindset shift that we've seen. You have Americans who are rejoicing, like Professor Nidal said, every time we hear about a settler, being killed, or Israeli being killed, and this has never happened before, and encouraging any type of resistance against the Western Empire. And so just, Ramadan, we're in the Ashr Awakhir. During your dua, just make sure to pray for a strong ummah, to pray for positive change, to pray that each person as an individual can serve, pray for shahada, pray that you're a part of the liberation of Palestine and the ummah. Who knows where you'll be next year, or who knows where youth from Muslim countries across the world will be, and their role in this liberation. And so, dua is key during these 10 nights, and continuing to share about what's happening. In Lebanon, we've seen that over 600 have been martyred just in the past week, which is ridiculous. And mainstream media isn't really covering this. And so we need to continue to speak and highlight what Israel is doing, and bringing back the focus on Israel as, the cancer that it is, completely destroying this region, not Iran, not anything else.
Well, Jazakallah khairan for that. And Prof. Nidal, I'll leave the final word with you. And the dua that Sister Lina speaks about, and this is our dua as well, inshallah. It is in the month of Ramadan, and as you always say, 2027 or 2028, a defining year. And that is a dua that I'd like to make, that inshallah we will meet in a free Aqsa as well. Just some final thoughts from you, Prof.
Yes, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, first of all, to give victory to all those who are fighting for his cause, whether it's the brothers in Lebanon, in Iran, or and Gaza, of course, and elsewhere. I trust, inshallah, that this Eid, inshallah, would be one of the happier Eids that this Ummah has had in our lifetime. I pray that this Eid would be the most miserable Eid for all of the dictators and the tyrants and the ones who decided to serve and to side with Israel. Definitely, victory is near. Allah said so, and we believe in it much more firmly every single day. We just ask Allah, just like the sister said, to answer our dua when we say, Allahumma sta'amilna wa la tastabdilna. Oh Allah, use us for in your cause and do not replace us. And every day is a test. Every day is an opportunity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings us the opportunity to take a stand, and to stand for our purpose in life, and for the reason that we are here. And I pray for the Ummah to wake up. It's about time, inshallah.
Well, inshallah, Nasrun min Allah wa fathun qareeb, we'll obviously terminate with that beautiful ayat, inshallah. The help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. And once again, we make dua for the victory of the Ummah. Once again, Prof. Nidal, Sakr, and also to you, Sister Lina Abojaradeh, Jazakallah khairan so much to both of you for taking time out on this blessed night of Ramadan, inshallah. And our du'as are with both of you, with your loved ones, with your families as well. Continue enjoying the blessings of this beautiful month of Ramadan. Allah Ta'ala accept your efforts, and also all the sacrifices that you have made as well, inshallah. Our du'as are with you, our du'as are with the Ummah as well, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Professor Nidal Sakr and Lina Abojaradeh joining us out of Jordan this evening. And once again, alhamdulillah, on this blessed night of Ramadan, inspired by the discussion that we have had. And alhamdulillah, again, a lot of food for thought for the Muslim Ummah as we enjoy the remainder of the month of Ramadan, just close on to 9 days or 10 days before the end of the month of Ramadan. Let us make the best of it, but more importantly, let us continue raising our hands. Let us reach to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us continue making dua for the ummah, inshallah, that Allah ta'ala restores the honor, the pride, and the dignity of the Muslim ummah and saves this ummah from tyranny, from oppression, from what we are seeing right across the entire Muslim world. And with that, I'm signing off from myself in the team here at Salam Media. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.